Morning everyone, this is update for September 9, 2022, day 198 of the war, end of the day update. So we'll just jump in. Obviously the most important part is this Kupiansk offensive. The offensive on the Kherson bridgehead is essentially stalled. As we said before, it's going to be very slow squeeze out, as death by thousand cuts, but at the same time Russian troops are trapped there pretty, let's say, securely at this point. But let's just start with the regular works through the front line, starting from very north. As always, there is exchange of all sort of adversarial activities along the state border. No changes here. Let's move now to Kharkiv, the section of the front line straight east of Kharkiv, or northeast of Kharkiv to be more correct. There are some Russian pressure here towards Udi and also Ruski Tishki. At this point, based on our information, it's actually not very clear what regular Ukrainian brigades are defending the city. There is a bunch of militia units, which is all of this here are militia units, because 92nd Brigade that was sort of tasked with defending the city since the beginning of the war. As we all know, it's participating in this Kupiansk offensive. Let's actually move now to that area. Let's just look what's going on here. So, as I posted much earlier. Well, technically it's yesterday because it's already 10th. But so on the 9th, Russian troops basically second half of the day evacuated Kupiansk, blew up the bridge, and so Ukrainian troops controlling Kupiansk. Probably once this video is released, you probably will see some pictures with Ukrainian troops posing in Kupiansk, not on the outskirts, but actually in the town. What was going on is Russian command is totally out of reserves, turns out, and they literally scrambling and bringing airborne units here. We don't even know what units are those, but they parachuting them or sort of bringing them by the helicopters using Mi-26 heavy transport helicopters in this area. So at this point, they're probably controlling Petropavlovka to prevent Ukrainian troops from advancing kind of further here, because this is really gonna have extremely catastrophic events on the whole front line down there, even in Donbass. So this is already catastrophic, and by any there is no doubt for the Russian troops right now. We even seeing that Russian troops are being brought through Moscow. So there is MCAD, which is Moscow Circular Road. It was actually blocked by the Russian police so that convoys of military, trucks and all of the equipment can pass through MCAD pretty quickly. So that was spotted today, meaning September 9th. So we can see that this is again confirms that Russian command does not have readily available reserves, and it's just scrambling from all over deep in Russia, pulling everything they can to basically stop this offensive. And so they're trying to rebuild defensive line on the eastern side of Oskil River. So far, they basically put airborne units here. At the same time, they are without any heavy equipment, so they can be easily sort of, let's say, thrown. Their defenses could be dislodged very easily. The only sort of positive on this for the Russian command that these are relatively motivated units, so they're not very easily to overcome, even if they have light weapons here. So it's not going to be super easy as what's going on here in general in this call it at this point we probably can call it Kupiansk encirclement or Kupiansk pocket. So let's actually look what's going on in this pocket in this moment. So as we all know, Ukrainian troops reached Sinko was actually yesterday. Now they moved and they reached bridge in Borova here, this bridge, which is very critical. So this is being secured by Ukrainian troops. So they essentially kind of like moving along the Oskil River, moving south, and basically all of the encircled Russian troops are concentrating kind of like in this whole area where I'm showing, sort of like north. Well, obviously there's some on the bridgehead itself, and then basically kind of this kind of shape. It starting from Savinci, going through Vesela, and then going to Izyum, basically this kind of area. So the only supply or and escape door that's left is this bridge in Oskil, which is like tertiary, basically road, like third rated everything. So this is definitely going to be, as we mentioned yesterday, the door is going to be too small to escape for all of the troops that are here at this point. Not to mention that Ukrainian troops at this point are very close to Oskil, and we even know that Russian reporters escaped at the end of the day through Oskil from the bridgehead. You know, they sort of moved back to the sort of mainland from this. At that point, it wasn't full encirclement. It's probably kind of closer and closer to it as we sort of speak. So this is what's going on here. Then at the same time, Ukrainian command decided to launch another sort of pincer for this offensive out of this area here from Raigorodok. So basically, Ukrainian troops crossed the Siversky Donetsk River, captured Staroy Karavan, which technically they didn't sort of liberated, but there was nothing to liberate because there were no Russian troops there. The same as in Ozernets, there were no Russian troops. There is some small-scale garrison here in Liman that's actually being attacked probably as we're speaking, and there is a chaos and panic there, so there's probably won't be any sort of much of resistance here, and so this opens up probably gates for Ukrainian troops to move to complete the encirclement, because this is this bridge in Oskil here, as you can see. So as you can imagine, this whole there is still probably opportunity to escape through Pasika here for some of the Russian troops, but in any case, this is very constrained sort of opportunity to escape this whole situation, and there will be. There is already huge loss of equipment on the Russian side, and there will be probably complete loss of equipment, and majority of the troops probably will surrender. So only the most motivated units probably will be able to escape this situation. So this is kind of like a big picture of what's going on so far. So this is where Ukrainian troops has reached this. This is where the Russian troops are concentrating in the northern part of this pocket. Then there is a southern. This is the main escape route in this village Oskil, and there is still small escape route in the village Pasika. This is the initial stage of another Ukrainian attack that's aimed initially at Liman, and it's probably this is sort of call it imaginary, sort of planned or expected passes of Ukrainian troops that are essentially going probably towards Borova, even here to Senkivka, more towards north, and probably some part of them will go towards Svatove, because these two towns here, Svatove and Starobilsk, are essentially at this point key logistic hubs for the Russian troops on sort of in this whole area here. So they will be critical to capture at least Svatove to essentially, in that case, the resistance here probably will be sort of moot point, and the Russian troops essentially probably will need to retreat to the state border. This is violet color is the state border. There were some reserves spotted from Starobilsk on the route on the west from Starobilsk to Svatove. They don't look as huge amount of equipment. Mostly trucks, which means it's only infantry, which means it's light weapons, which means also that they don't have sort of strong defensive capabilities, given that Ukrainian command and Ukrainian troops are having more heavy equipment at this point. Another important Russian at this point logistical hub and center is this. It's actually kind of village, more village than a small town, Veliki Burluk. This is kind of hub here right now. This has been attacked by HIMARS rockets, basically by Ukrainian artillery to destroy Russian sort of probably also command there as well. So this is kind of like high-level situation. The situation is moving extremely quickly, changing extremely quickly. But the key point here is that Ukrainian troops, Ukrainian forces hit in complete emptiness. And that what led to all of these disastrous consequences for the Russian side. And probably we will, unless things somehow drastically change, something drastic happens, it looks that the encirclement will be complete on the 10th of this whole group, and probably there will be some conversation about the surrender of this whole group. This really puts then if Ukrainian troops continue advancing here, so the whole ability to defend this whole chunk of territory also becomes under question at this point. So as we said, Russian leadership is really facing tough decisions, some sort of, or not some sort of, like mass use of conscripts. That's only, and then some kind of form of mobilization, not full scale, but maybe some form of mobilization. This is the only way to sort of stem this disaster, and because this is just like a domino effect, because Ukrainian troops destroyed one of the most capable Russian troops. So basically, the sort of the pinching force of the Russian forces. And also they also in the process of destroying another important part of the Russian forces on Kherson bridgehead, which those troops basically they trapped there, and this is kind of like a deaths, as we said, deaths by 1,000 cuts. So at this point, Russian command will lose the most important pieces of its striking force, which is airborne divisions, and the only sort of capable part of the Russian troops that's still remaining is going to be just Wagner mercenaries. That's pretty much it at this point. With this, once let's say, Kherson bridgehead mopped up and this encirclement mopped up, there is no enough troops for the Russian command to defend what they conquered in Ukraine so far. So what this really means that Ukrainian troops will probably quickly advance to sort of regain control of all of the captured territories. Let's just kind of look at this from a big picture perspective. So this really means, liberating this area. Essentially, this whole area that was captured will be probably liberated, and they will be attached to recapture or liberate Crimea by Ukrainian command. So that's for sure and guaranteed. So that's why we're saying that Russian side will have to make some kind of big moves, because otherwise they're gonna lose the whole, like literally everything they conquered since the beginning of the February 2014. Because technically, and some people are correct, saying that this war started on February 20th. 2014. Really, this is just another this is a kind of like a second phase of the hot war, because the first phase was in 2014 and beginning of 2015, and that was sort of relatively, there was truce, let's put this way, and now this is second stage of the hot war. So this is kind of like in a nutshell, from a big picture perspective, what's happening now. Let's look at what's going on in the North Donbass section of the front line. Things here are more or less the same, with the exception that Ukrainian forces are trying to counterattack. So they launched counterattack here in Bakhmut. It didn't go anywhere because as we understand, that this Wagner mercenaries are pretty capable troops overall, and so it's you really need to be skilled to fight successfully against them, and that's not quite there for Ukrainian troops, even though they are successful at the high level with the with this Kupiansk offensive. We would still say that they are not matched for motivated Russian troops, which our Wagner mercenaries are. Most of the regular Russian troops at this point have lost sort of motivation, and morale is very low, so they're not very capable troops. With, again, as we said, exception of the airborne units and those special forces brigades, but that's just they are a tiny minority in the entire sort of in the entire Russian troops. Then here we can see this is just more, some of it is more like kind of catch up update. Basically, Wagner mercenaries captured all of this area around this village Kadema that they captured probably 3, 4, 5 days ago, 10 days ago, something like that. So this whole territory kind of like was handed over to them because Kadema was kind of like higher ground, so you kind of like gaining ground here. And this is actually, we mentioned this before, this is kind of like a valley of the river that goes all the way to Siversky Donetsk and Bakhmut itself. So they probably will be hard to defend. At the same time, this whole of Russian offensive at this point is really one big moot point, as once the Kupiansk pocket is mopped up and Kherson bridgehead is mopped up, there is no point of sort of for these attacks, because it's going to be a question of generally what to do next for Russian side. Let's just quickly look at what's going on Zaporizhia front. On central Donbass, west of Donetsk. Again, similar situation. Ukrainian troops trying to counterattack. They launched counterattack to liberate Pisky, which was not successful based on our information. Otherwise, there is no meaningful advances by Russian troops here. This is the same map we've been showing. That's essentially not changing since August 21st. Now let's actually look at Zaporizhia front line. Things here are more or less the same without any meaningful changes here. Now let's finally jump to Kherson bridgehead. Things here also kind of stalled. The only known advance for us is Ukrainian forces managed to liberate village Oleksandrivak, which is basically straight next to town Stanislav. There was quite a bit of fighting for this village. It was not actually Ukrainian troops tried to liberate it sometime, I think, in May or early June, and they were not successful. So they were repelled now. They sort of slowly, as we said, death by 1,000 cuts, slowly squeezing out all of these Russian forces from the bridgehead. Based on how it's being done, it looks like it's going to be a relatively long affair, given that we don't see the same skill level at the Ukrainian command here that we see in Kupiansk area. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye-bye.